of Yahoo Sports presents the football show 24/7, and I'm joined once again by England's most capped player, Farrah Williams, and former West Ham and Spurs star, Molly Comita. Good to see you both. Sadly, we are heading towards the end of the tournament. It's come round so quickly, hasn't it? What's been the highlight for both of you?
Probably not a highlight, but a standout player, Ellen White for England. You know, she's set the tournament alight. You know, I'm praying that she gets this golden boot, you know, in the third and fourth playoff, because she's been fantastic for England, and literally anything she's touched.
Why is she not taking penalties though, Farrah?
Oh, don't.
I'm not the manager.
Should she be?
I mean, she's a strike. I mean, in that moment, I would have kept with Nikita, but yeah, it could have been a second potential player that could have took it.
What about the highlight for you, Molly?
I think for me, I really enjoyed the Norway performance. I think it's the only time that we've seen the capabilities our England side has. Lucy Bronze's goal for me was a standout moment, and when I think of goals throughout the tournament, that one for me was top class. So yeah, Lucy Bronze's goal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been such a fantastic tournament, hasn't it? I really just feel like women's football is just becoming part of the mainstream sporting landscape. 11.7 million people watched that semi-final between England and the USA. That's the most watched broadcast of the whole year. What do we do now to build on that then, to grow the game and then take it to the next level?
It's difficult, and it's a question everyone's asking now. I think, you know, we have to continue to make it visible for people. I certainly think the clubs have to do a lot more in their marketing. Bums on seats at domestic games is the most important thing now to keep it growing. Yeah, they're the things for me, because England, look, it was out on the BBC, and you know, you could choose to watch it, and 11.7 million, you know, people around the world chose to do it. Yeah. So there's obviously interest in it, and if it's shown, there's people that would want to watch. It's now getting those people off their sofas and out to the games and on the seats, because that's important for the growth of our game.
And there's talk at the moment of the WSL being brought under the Premier League umbrella. They've commissioned a feasibility study into that, which is something that they're now looking into. Is that the best thing for it, Molly? Do you think the Premier League are the best place to develop the game?
Well, they certainly know what they're doing, and I think it would be in safe hands if that was the step that we did take. I think there's a natural association with men's clubs and women's clubs that need to become closer together, and you hope that that builds fan bases. But it goes back to Farrah's point. The women's clubs, by their own, need to stand alone and not depend on anyone else in order to make it sustainable. So for me, if that is a step to doing that, then it's the right move to make.
And there's got to be a set kick-off time for these games, hasn't there? There's got to be the schedule needs to be sorted out. It needs to be clearer, because at the moment the games are all over the place, Farrah. And you know, you've said you felt like you're working as part of the marketing department in the past.
I think it's certainly a role that players have taken on. You know, I think, you know, trying to get fans to the games. You know, we use our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, and you know, certainly put it out there where the games are at. So yeah, we do our most as players to try and get people to come and watch, but certainly I think marketing needs to be better. And as you say about, you know, the games, they have to be at set kick-off times. You know, they have to be regular every week. If it's a Sunday that we're committing to, then a 2 o'clock Sunday kick-off throughout the FAWSL is important. That we, you know, fans can actually go online and actually read when the games are, or see it in a paper, but they have to be able to see it. They have to know what's going on. Yeah. It has to be, the word has to be out there.
And that's a good point. I mean, Farrah's right in what she's saying. You can use the players internally as much as you like, but actually you're already targeting those groups that follow you guys. We need to reach out to people that don't watch the game at all. So actually, is there, how much are we gaining from actually marketing to the bubble that women's football is? We need to get outside the bubble and get those people inside the tent, really. And
we've got to improve things at youth level, haven't we? The club level for young players coming through, so we can grow the pool of talent that we've got.
Yeah, certainly grassroots football has to improve. I think, you know, the coaching across the board has to improve, and you know, if we want to move from a semi-finalist team to a finalist team, yeah, as I say, the coaching certainly needs to improve at all levels for that to happen, and the development of players to happen.
We could spend the whole show, couldn't we, talking about this and the next steps and things like that. It's exciting times, but there's so much that can still be done. He's back with us as well. Yahoo's head of sport, Raj Manik, is here. Good to see you, Raj.
Good morning. Good morning.
What's impressed you then?
What an incredible tournament. There's so much to dissect from this tournament. I think when you look at the actual representation of fans in France, I think they've been brilliant. The Dutch and the American fans, for me, have really set the place alight. The quality of goalkeeping throughout has been by far the highest I've seen in any World Cup.
Keeping the goals the same size then?
Yeah, I'm all for that. But no, the quality of goalkeeping. You look at the Sweden Holland semi-final. The 2 fingertip saves onto the post and on the bar in that game. Absolutely phenomenal pieces of goalkeeping. We've had the record score with USA beating Thailand. I think for me the big thing will be to see how the Dutch do get on against the USA, because England were fantastic in that game against USA, but they just look like they've got 2-3 more gears that the USA can go through. And I think if anyone wants to bring them down, the next 4 years will be crucial for. To be honest, I think it will be England if anyone is going to bring them off that top spot, because of the investment that we have in the game. But the big thing as well, Farah mentioned the word choice. People made a choice. 11.7 million made a choice to tune into that game. And throughout the tournament, I think the viewing figures for England games nearly doubled. So 6.1 million for the opening game against Scotland, and then 4 games later, 5 games later, we're at 11.7 million. That shows the appetite and the demand is there. And I think now we're at that beautiful turning point, I think, where the demand is there, the appetite's there, also the funding is now there. We've got fully professional league, fully professional teams, more investment into the national team, and I said it last week, but I do think in the next 4 years we will see a huge growth spurt, and we're going to win it in 4 years' time.
Yay.
We're going to win it. And America will be the ones actually going, wow, 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 because England would have brought home the trophy.
We have to capitalise on it, we really do. Let us know what you think as well. We'd love to know what your highlights of the tournament have been. If you're watching on Facebook Live right now, you can write your comments just below in the comments section. Across all social, we're at Yahoo Sport UK. And remember, you can watch this episode back and some of the best bits from it on the Yahoo platforms as well. It did end in heartbreak, though. Despite your predictions, Farah, for England losing 2-1, still hurts, it really does. After an own goal last time round in the tournament, and then we had the offside goal ruled out by the smallest far margin, missed a penalty in the closing stages of that game. Is it feeling a bit like England are cursed?
No, not for me. I think, being live at the game, there was a difference, and the US certainly for me in that game were better for longer periods. Certainly England had their moments and were good in spells, but not long enough spells to earn the right to win that game. But yeah, I mean, the margins for that offside, but it's been consistent VAR, and it was, the correct decision, as heartbreaking as the decision was. And then obviously the penalty miss that could have probably took us to extra time.
Does it feel a bit like that, Molly? Or?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a cop-out, a little bit of an excuse to sort of create a curse sort of stigma around it, because for me, we had chances, you've reeled off a few there, and we just didn't have the edge to take the win. So we're not good enough at the end of the day. They were better than us, and they won the game. So that's all it comes down to.
3 successive semi-final defeats now, though. We've got the Olympics next year, then a home Euros in 2021. How do England then take those immediate next steps to get ready for those tournaments, apart from practising pens, of course?
Yeah, there's work to be done, but I think we're proving that, minimal, we are a semi-finalist team. To get to the last 3 semi-final has been massive for us. You look back 10 years ago, we were a team that were struggling to get out of a group or only getting to the last 16 and not being able to win a knockout game. So we've certainly progressed, and we're in a really good stage at the minute. I think, these experiences against the best teams like America will take a lot of learnings from that. I mean, as you say, we've got another tournament next year, and then we've got the home Euros. But I think they said it, Sue, when she come into the FA, they said 2023 was the World Cup we were aiming to win, and, we're probably a little bit ahead of our time, but consistently getting to semi-finals. So hopefully, in 4 years' time, that'll be our tournament.
I think that's actually a great thing that we've got these tournaments on the horizon so quickly.
Yeah, 100%. I think we now build a rapport, and we can take that rapport and that momentum into the Olympics, into the Euros. And I think for me personally, we need to win the Euros in 21 at home. And I think that'll have a knock-on effect for similar sort of journey to what the Netherlands have done. And you can see they're now sitting in a World Cup final. So I'll be really happy if that was the journey we look to follow.
Yeah. I mean, the disappointment's still raw, but it was a really high-quality match. Does that kind of give you the belief that England are on the right path? The fact that, it was just 2-1 against the best team in the world, and they held their own.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking, in the stadium. I felt it for the players. I was probably more heartbroken watching as a fan then than I was 4 years ago actually playing and losing in that semi-final. But it's certainly showing signs that we're getting closer. I still think, you know, this is probably the best American team I've seen live. You know, I thought that the strength in depth throughout their squad was fantastic, leaving key players out and still able to, as I say, dominate the game for long periods. But as I said, we're certainly closer. We know what it takes, and I think these girls will take a lot of learning. We had, you know, lots of debuts to the tournament, and they'll learn from that, those experiences, and then move forward with that.
Come on, come on.
He's put me off now. What was the question?
You've got the belief that they are on the right path after watching that performance.
No, of course we are, and I think Saturday is vital. We need to take that bronze home for us to feel like we've, you know, haven't failed, because anything less than a bronze, I feel, is a failure. Phil said that as well. So for me, we are definitely in the right direction. We just don't have enough yet to beat that side.
Farah, England's former penalty taker. Molly, if she's on the pitch, are England in the final?
I said earlier we haven't seen that video much this week, but no, it's a fantastic penalty, and for me, you would have loved to have the confidence in someone like Farah to step up and take that. So it's a shame, but you can never dwell on those things.
You did say on last week's show that you felt, despite the fact she had 2 penalties saved, you felt that if there was another one to come up, England should have stuck with Nikita Parris. That didn't happen. Do you feel that was the wrong decision?
I mean, it's easy to sit here and say that now, but certainly in the game and watching it, when we got that penalty, you know, I actually thought Nikita was going to take it. I didn't have any idea that Steph was going to step up, but yeah, I think it was, you know, the pressure that I think was put on Steph to take that penalty, you know, after Nikita missing 2, I think was even bigger than Nikita taking a 3rd penalty and potentially missing. I think, I mean, credit to Steph, and she leads the team so fantastically well, and, you know, it was a big moment, and she's not somebody to shy away from those big moments. She will tell you herself, you know, her execution wasn't, you know, the best, and that's probably made it easier for the keeper to save, but for me, Nikita still needed to take it. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and you think laws of averages, she's going to have to score 1 out of the 3. You would
You'd hope so.
Yeah,
you'd hope so.
You would have hoped. Now, the USA players, you were there in the stadium watching that game. They just looked physically stronger, physically fitter than the Lionesses. What needs to change for us institutionally for us to sort of replicate that level of athleticism?
To be honest, I don't think you can replicate it. I think they've always had a way of doing it, their infrastructure, their college system. They have a pathway, and it clearly works. We don't have that pathway in place. So actually, I feel like we're on a catch-up. I think now we do have the investment, now we do have that moment that Raj spoke about. Yes, we're in a place to now progress, but I think before that, we can't replicate something that's been going on for years in that American team.
How do we get better in that area, Farah? What needs to happen?
I mean, they're a different breed, those Americans. You know, watching them, I think, you know, their mentality, their mindset is something, you know, it's crazy. It was crazy to see, because, you know, as a player and a fan watching that game, you know, you could see moments where they looked like they were down. There was players that looked a little bit tired for the Americans, but they never ever show sign of weakness, and it was crazy. I mean, their players were tired. A couple of them went with cramp, and the way they just got up and then pressed a couple of players and made you then think, oh, actually they're not tired. It was crazy. But certainly our coaching at all levels, I spoke about it before, our coaching at all levels need to increase. It needs to be better. There needs to be better quality coaching within the women's game. And, you know, certainly now the game's professional. I did say, you know, I'd like to see our kids in 10 years' time. You know, I think, you know, we should be a dominant force with the coaching that's coming through, the regular, you know, practice that they get. We should be, you know, certainly a team that is there or thereabouts winning, or at least getting to finals.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you touched on it then, their mental edge that they have on everyone. I was sitting in a bar, right, in Lyon during the week, and even the fans have this mentality that is just, that they win regardless. The way she's asked for the bill, this lady, and he said to him, oh, how long are you staying? She said, oh, we're in the final. This was before the England game. She went, we're in the final anyway, so I'll see you on Sunday. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, she's already had one up on me.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, your it's gone. Yeah. So, but it's mental, because actually you can imagine if the fans have that in them.
It just filters down to everybody.
It has filtered down.
Because they're never rattled and they have that belief.
And I think the minute you get to not only your players and staff, but your fans having that mental edge, then you've done the good job. So yeah, my head had gone before the game as well.
I don't even know what that feels like as a Newcastle fan. It's like, what does that even mean? It has been a fantastic tournament, an incredible tournament. It's been a great series as well so far, and here are some of our favourite moments from both.
I've been saying through the tournament, this England team can go and win the World Cup, and yesterday I think, you know, people are starting to believe it now.
Felt to me watching it that they were just refusing to restart the game.
No,
they weren't sure that they wanted to.
I think there's lack of, streetwise football within this tournament. Me as a player, I'm standing over that free kick. I'm not allowing that free kick to be taken early.
2 of the goals should not have stood. The pull was not a penalty, and I do think the last goal was offside.
To me, the referee should have turned around and said, "We're going to restart this game in the next 5 seconds. If none of you do it, I'm going to give you a card. Start with the captain first."
I'd hate to be a defender in the game nowadays. I don't understand how you can defend.
And then 20 seconds later, I'm going to give another one, and another one, and another one.
You're in the wrong job.
Yeah.
You're in the wrong job.
Yeah.
What's the natural defending position? It's certainly not with your arms behind your back. You're clearing the ball. If you're striking for a ball, for me, your foot follows through anyway. You're not in control of that, especially if she's inside her box. I mean, I would like to demonstrate it to just show you. As soon as you're striking, your foot's going to come up and through. I think the referees are there to do a job. It's human nature to make mistakes, and I think, at times they're going to do that.
In that game, VAR was not beneficial, but I think the amount of times it's been used throughout the tournament so far justifies its use in the tournament.
I think goal line technology is important. VAR, a little bit, is slowing the game down and probably taking away that human error.
The majority of them Scotland players are playing in the Super League, the top league of women's football in England, and there's those little learnings, those little standards that I'm sure they would have adopted for their clubs, but they just didn't seem to do it for their country, and I am shocked by that.
I've never seen a player as driven as Lucy Bronze. She's certainly up there, with the best 10 players in the world. I'd certainly put her in that category.
On sour note, though, we do have a bit of beef with the Team USA. Did they and Alex Morgan show a bit of lack of class with that tea-sipping celebration? They were already criticised for their celebrations against Thailand in that thrashing. What did you make of that, ladies?
No, listen, I would never take that as an offensive. Whatever she's done there is not offensive to me. I think in the men's game, if that happened, it's not even spoken about. So I don't know why it's spoken about in the women's game. So for me, it's quite frustrating that it's even a talking point.
A storm in a teacup, Farah, or is it going to make it? Is it going to make a lot of people want the Netherlands to win now?
Maybe, but I'm sure the England players would have only seen that after because of the reports around it in the game. They would have wanted to get the ball back and restart the game as quickly as possible. But look, they've been questioned about every single celebration they've done throughout the tournament. The 13-goal celebration, they were questioned about. What can they do that isn't, spoken about? So they like to be spoken about. For them, I seen her the day after going into the training camp, and she took the mickey a little bit out of the press, and was sipping then on an espresso. So the more you give them, the more they'll come back. So
they just feed off it.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, they certainly do.
They love it.
I mean, I wasn't offended by it. I drink tea all the time. Maybe she was taking a mick out of me.
I never drunk it with my little finger like that.
I drink my water with this queen bee over here.
Now, I don't know about you, but I always get to this point in the tournament and I absolutely hate these third-place playoffs. I just think it's cruel. The players just want to get home, surely. They're gutted, they've been knocked out. You're making them stick around and play in a game that... Is it really going to matter? People are just going to remember you went out in the semi-finals. Does anyone actually really care who finished 3rd or 4th? I mean, what was it like preparing for that game in Canada? Do most of the players just want to get on the plane, Farah?
Do you know what? 4 years ago, we didn't want to get on a plane. We went there, with the objective of coming back with a medal. And certainly, even though we was deflated after that Japan game, coming so close and an own goal really, really late on, we wanted to medal. And we were fully prepared for this game, and the least we were going to come back with was a bronze. And I'm sure the players, prepared for 18 months for this tournament now, and they wanted to get gold. And, I'm sure they'd rather come back with a bronze medal than nothing. And I know we talk about, OK, but they knocked out the semi-final. For me as a player, I'd rather have a bronze medal than no medal. So
I think them players know. Yeah, I think them players know they have to come back with at least a bronze, or from an external, we don't see a progression. They need to have achieved at least a bronze for it to not feel like a failure. So I think they'll be wanting to play that playoff.
And they will fancy themselves as favourites against Sweden, won't they? Would you go all out for that 3rd, or would you maybe use this game to experiment with different players and different systems?
No, I think we need to come home with a medal, as we've just said. So for me, I think you play it safe, and anything less than that, we will be disappointed.
There'll be no problems motivating them for it, you think? Getting them up after that disappointment?
I mean, I'll be disappointed if they're not motivated for you know, a bronze medal after, as I say, the work that they put in. For me, he has to pick what he sees as his strongest team, his fittest team. You know, there will be some tired legs from, you know, a long tournament, but we have to play our strongest team and we have to play that game to win. And I think, you know, Phil Neville said it in his press conference after the game. His attention quickly turned from, you know, potentially being a gold medalist to a bronze medalist, and then they started preparing. So
he said he was already thinking about the Olympics. He'd already started planning that.
He does move on quite quickly, and you know, certainly they would have moved on, and they look as though they're ready. I've seen some training clips. They look as though they're ready for this bronze medal.
Let's hope so. Are they going to win the bronze medal? If you're watching on Facebook, let us know what you think. You can write it in the comments section, or you can tweet us at Yahoo Sport UK. So England will be playing that third place playoff on Saturday, the final on Sunday. Let's talk about that then. The holders against the European champions. Most people are going to have the USA down as favourites for that game, of course. Why are they seen as stronger than the Netherlands?
They're just, for me, they're just so consistent when it matters. Every 4 years, that 4-year tournament that comes round, they just turn up, and they're fantastic. I even think, you know, watching that game against England, I even think they had another gear to go in. So if they do and they turn up in the final with another gear, you know, it's going to be really tough for the Dutch to come out on top. But Holland are a fantastic team. They proved that 2 years ago. Again, they've proved that throughout this tournament. And, you know, we spoke before the tournament. I was really surprised that actually no one spoke about Holland potentially getting to the final, having, you know, won the European Championship 2 years ago. And they've quietly gone about their business, and now they're in a final of a World Cup. I think it'll be a fantastic game. Certainly, you know, as I mentioned before, both sets of fans are fantastic, so it's going to be exciting on Sunday.
No, you've got two winners, and as Farah touched on there, you've got European champions versus world champions. So actually, if there was a game to watch, it's definitely this one. And I think we could be in for a surprise. You know, I think Holland are definitely ones to watch, and they could cause upset.
Yeah. But a lot of that USA team have played in a World Cup final before. Some of them have played in two as well. Does that sort of familiarity just really, I don't know, prove a massive advantage for them?
I think it does, you know. I think it actually creates, for the players that maybe haven't been in those positions, a reassurance, because actually they have players around them that can familiarise themselves with the settings, and for them it wouldn't become an occasion. I think that's the one advantage that they will have on Holland, is that Holland have obviously never been in this situation before, and USA for them, you know, as we've spoken about throughout the whole show, that they expect to win this. So for me, I think it's more of a reassurance that comes with that familiarity.
Is it a big factor?
I mean, Holland got to a final and won it 2 years ago, and you know, from that starting 11 2 years ago, I think they've only made 2 changes to their starting 11. So they're a fantastic group of players that have stayed together for now longer than 2 years, 3 or 4 years. So they certainly, you know, have experienced that final, you know, occasion, being in a major final. And this is just, I guess, one step on their ladder. And you know, certainly speaking to some of the players from the Dutch team, they're excited about it. They know it's going to be a tough game, but they've got belief within their squad, and their fans certainly, you know, have been fantastic throughout the tournament and have made most of their games feel like a home game.
And they've got obvious danger players, USA, though. They've got Alex Morgan, they've got Lindsay Horan. But against England, it was backup player Christian Press who opened the scoring. Is it just that strength and depth that they have that's the difference maker?
I mean, that sums up their strength and depth. I think the fact that Rapinoe doesn't play, Christian Press comes on, scores the goal. I think the way they can go like for like just, you know, sums up USA at the moment. You know, Ellis openly says, their manager openly comes out and says she doesn't have a starting 11. She feels that every single one of her players could be in that starting 11. And she's right, you know, no one was fazed when Rapinoe was sitting on the bench. And I think us sitting here as England fans, if one of our top players, say a Lucy Bronze, got injured before a big game like that, there would be uproar, or there would be a sense of worry. There was none of that from that team. So, yeah, justifies.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Rapinoe in the French game, she was fantastic for the US, and probably ran so much that probably I don't know what they said she had a thigh strain, but for me, she could have potentially been a little bit fatigued. But I reckon they put Press in that starting 11, knowing the strength that England have down their right-hand side, and I think they thought Nikita and Lucy would be down that right, and you know, Press has got legs. She's quick. She is relentless in her press, and I think that they would have thought Crystal Dunn and Press would have been there, you know, to been able to counteract England's strengths down this right-hand side. With England changing personnel and adapting, I guess they thought, you know, maybe they didn't need to play, but she scored the goal. She scored the goal that set them on their way in that 10-minute period where they absolutely dominated England. So a fantastic replacement.
I think it's fair to say as well that the Dutch fans have probably been the best at the tournament. They've supported the team in colossal numbers. They're just a brilliant, colourful presence wherever they go. And that's what we want to see across the whole game, isn't it? Across the world. How do we get to that?
I think we have to win. We have to start winning. I think this has been a knock-on effect from them winning the European Championships in 2017, and since then the momentum that they've built as a fan base has been, you know, a pivotal moment in their football. So for me, we have to win the Euros, and we hope that then is a knock-on effect for our fan base. I hope to see that one day, well, in 4 years' time, when England take on the next World Cup.
And the USA support as well hasn't been far behind, has it?
I think both sets of fans. I think, you know, the final. I think both the Dutch and the US, their fans have come out in numbers, and it's been fantastic to see. So I'm looking forward to the final because the fans will make it even better. But I mean, I was on the flight over for the England game from Luton, Luton to Lyon. You'd think it would be full of more of England fans. The only England fans on that plane were myself, Ellen White's mum and dad, and the rest were Americans. And I kid you not, if you could hear somebody speaking American and they didn't have anything that represented America, they were throwing socks and making them put socks or wristbands or headbands. They had everything to make you seem that they were representing
their supporting team.
It was unbelievable, and I was like, we're in Luton. and then I met somebody that used to work at the FA before the game, and we was talking about the game, literally surrounded by US fans. They actually sold over 23,000, and England sold 1,100. So there's a difference, and that's what winning does. You know, as you mentioned,
and that's the gap
Dutch
we
won,
need to bridge.
It is, and that's what the Dutch did 2 years ago. And you know, at home, their home nation, they were fantastic. Their fans, and they've carried on that support for their team. And yeah, it's been fantastic. But the gaps, you know, in terms of support, is massive. And if England wins something, then hopefully we'll get to that stage.
Well, that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. Don't forget to go to the Yahoo platforms to watch this show back and some of the best bits from it on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. It is Yahoo Sport UK. Thank you very much to the wonderful Molly Comita and Farah Williams. It's been great to share the studio with you for the last 5 weeks. And Raj Malik as well, as always, of course. And of course, to you, to everyone watching, thank you very much. Enjoy the third place playoff. Enjoy the final. Come on, England. And come on, the Netherlands.